at the targets as put out there, they seem very achievable. And as Yao is saying, it seems as if Atu is trying to manage expectations. Because he's growing at 6.3, yet he's saying next year he'll grow at 4.8. Yeah. Meanwhile, he's telling us he's going to do economic growth stimulating policies like the big push and stuff like this. It's a bit funny. Yeah. And also he's having inflation of 8% already, and he says he's going to maintain it at 8. Yeah. He has almost 5 months of import cover. He's aiming at only 3. So you look at it and you wonder whether he's deliberately sort of, So what are your thoughts on that for your starters in the studio?
Well, Bernard, thank you very much, and happy to be here with you again, and thanks to your, good evening to your cherished listeners out there. What Minister Forson is basically trying to do is what I call, to sum it in one word, is prudence. Prudence is what he's doing, pure and simple. We're trying to spare the numbers, but to have a real achievement of what could reflect on the pockets and lives of the people, what would attract investors. And the biggest sweetener for any investor, be it the local or international market, is prudence. And having come from the heels of an overheated economy, where we're yet to even cool off yet before we could turn a corner, and we are at the stabilization stages or cooling off stages, prudence is the watchword. And that's exactly what he's doing. So he says, look, if somebody sits out in Denver and looking at the Ghanaian economy and want to invest, what is growth rate looking at? How is it maintained? What are the stability levels? That we have not seen in the last probably 4 to 5 years of the economy. So if he's coming in the first 1 year in his stabilization scheme, he tries to say, okay, well, this is what I want to do, even though I'm at 8%. Mind you, he's met all the ECOWAS metrics in terms of import cover, right? The metric is pegged at 4. He's doing 4 plus, I think 4.3. He's doing 4.8, which is commendable. But he's saying that, look, this is my target for the following year. In terms of inflation, about 8%, but this is what I want to be at, which is, again, a prudent measure. So all what he's trying to indicate is that I'm at that level of stability that invites you to really have real confidence in the economy. And you see, as part of the prudence measure, and in also re-injecting what I call an evaporated confidence in the infrastructure sector. For example, go to a commercial bank today. I'm going to be as practical as possible, devoid of the numbers, just for the people listening to us in their various homes. When you go to a commercial bank today for a loan or a facility, as a contractor, back in the day, GOG projects was a cash cow. Today you go, they don't want to listen to you. So what it tells you is that the infrastructure sector has lost a certain level of confidence. So what big push and other big ticket items on the budget is doing is that it's re-injecting that confidence. Because at the end of the day, in my ex-life, when I used to advise other governments and agencies, what I tell is when a budget is read, follow the money. So if the investor community and the commercial banks, et cetera, are trying to follow the money, they see a reflection of it. Okay, big push, 30 billion has been allocated. Mind you, there's something we need to do, a comparative analysis of what happened in the previous budget. The allocation that was put in. We had a whole brouhaha, this X amount of money that has been put to big push, that's woefully inadequate. We explained that this was going to be for preparation measures, among others. What has happened is that that allocation, majority of it is still existing in terms of spending. So it tells you a certain level of prudence. 30 billion has been voted to big push again. So that is a continuity and investor confidence, stability and prudence that Minister Forson is preaching. Okay. So yes, it's all about prudence of the Mahama, Nana Jane, Opoku, Ajuman, Forson economy.
So what is prudence?
Prudence.
Dr. Mahama, what are your thoughts on the target set in view of what has been achieved so far?
Well, so thank you very much, and then good evening to my brother, and good evening to you and to the good people of Wale. Bernard, the finance minister gave us some targets. Those targets would have to be informed by what the finance minister was able to do in 2025. If the finance minister set certain targets in 2025, including expenditure allocation, and meets more than 50% of those particular targets, the finance minister setting a new target in 2026 would give me questions as to whether or not, irrespective of how realistic those figures may seem, whether they are achievable. Otherwise, unless of course the finance minister is explaining to me that in 2025, those figures those targets that were set were not realistic, and that he's being realistic. One of the targets that I think that the finance minister will labor to achieve is the revenue target. The finance minister is expecting to do more than he did this year in terms of revenue. And he's telling us that this year he's going to rake in a lot of revenue. He's planning to do some 268 billion, which constitutes about 16.8% of GDP. When the finance minister ended this year with 11% of GDP. Basically, a 6% jump cannot be realistic for me. Looking at that number, the finance minister cannot do a 6% to GDP increase in revenue. Much more so when the finance minister is taking away a very relevant tax handle, the COVID-19, which estimated gives us about 3.7 billion. And as a third quarter, it gave the finance minister 2 billion in the budget. Okay. So the finance minister is basically taking away 2 billion direct. And if you look at the performance of the tax in 2025, the direct tax did not do so well as based on target. And now the finance minister only hope is to ensure that value-added tax is rationalized and the rates are going to reduce. If rates are going to reduce to bring in more revenue, or he's thinking that digitalization, as he calls it, will bring in. But you see, since the time of Kojo Bawuri, we've been doing tax compliance and we've been trying to seal tap loopholes. But yet, compliance hasn't done enough. And the only way the finance minister will receive this particular target on revenue is for our finance minister to come with supplementary budget, either to increase taxes or to cut down the expenditure. So for me, once the revenue is not performing, it means that the expenditure will not perform. Clearly, if you are not able to do, if I cannot clearly see how you are going to work on the revenue for the revenue to succeed, I don't see how expenditure.
Let me just give you a quick point of information. So as you rightly said, he's budgeting 268.1 billion revenue. If you compare his revenue targets for each of the subsectors, it seems as if taxes on income and property is where his biggest jump will come from. He had budgeted 93.7 in 2025. He now wants to do 115.4, a 23% jump. He also wants to do 23% jump in international trade taxes, import duties. So those two alone seem to be, and then there's a category called others, where he wants to jump from 10.7 to 14.4. So by point of information, those are the three areas: income and property tax, international trade tax, and others. That's where he wants. But continue your point.
Yeah, so basically, if you look at what happened in 2025 and the fact that the minister failed to meet the revenue target, and it's now even coming to take away an important tax handle, COVID-19, and still giving us assurance that he's going to get more revenue.
You don't see how that's going to happen?
I don't see where the government is going to get the revenue from. Wonderful. The assurance that they are going to do compliance has been there. The assurance, even in the last budget, as a matter of fact, it is contained in that particular last budget that they are going to ensure compliance. In fact, mid-year, he said he wanted to move his office to the port. You get it? So it's been there. But still, despite that assurance, the finance minister could not meet the revenue target. Now, he's now promising the same thing and now saying they are going to ensure compliance and they want to meet the revenue target. Look, one or two things will happen by mid-year. The finance minister will revise the targets down, and we take note of that. The finance minister will revise the targets down, or the finance minister will come to introduce more taxes in order to meet the revenue, the expenditure. We'll come to the expenditure when we are discussing expenditure. And I think that the allocations are so unrealistic because you allocated 51 million